Hello, miners and magistrates. My name is TB Skyen, and past Skyen has, as ever, been very bad at recording intros for these episodes, so welcome back to the boss designs of Dark Souls 2. So, if you remember last time, we traversed the poisonous Harvest Valley and made our way into the bottom floor of the Earthen Peak, where we confronted the covetous demon and had a rather extended and somewhat dry academical discussion of certain tropes in character design. So now, having dealt with the monster that dwells at the base of this particular windmill tower, perhaps it's time to see if we can find one who dwells at the top. That guy, by the way, big giant curse hole in his chest, exactly the same place as ours is. Oh! Okay, I thought maybe that was not a thing that was gonna poison me. Shows what I know. Well, that's different. Should have known. How can you shoot at me when you have no head? So is that a staff or a weapon? Okay, it's not a sorcery staff. That's good. It's an ice weapon of some sort? Hi. They can jump really high. Okay, not a trap as such. And not a trap there. Pike. Okay, let's get to the top of this place. Hello. Try torch. But what? Bonfire ahead. Oh, I see. Ah! So... that just got locked off, I guess. Oh, hey, bonfire right there. So try torch, it said. To do what, though? Oh! I hit R2 one time too many there. Let's do that again. You're weird. Mannequin, huh? Oh, set light. Oh! Well, that seems mean. But I guess that's gonna stop the windmill rotating. Or maybe it's just gonna set the windmill on fire. There we go. Okay, so I got some of the gloves and gear from Mask of Mannequins of the Harvest Valley. A fickle queen gave them life and tore off their faces. How else could she forgive those who dared gaze upon her? The peculiar art of puppetry is a vestige of the two lost lands. A queen breathed life into these dolls, with the very miasma that afflicted her poison-drenched bosom. So she would have slaves to serve her temperamental will. Boy, that sucks. For them, not so much for me. Ah, f off! So are we gonna meet the queen then? Like, since all of her little servants are the ones that are following us around here. Because there's a boss door up there guarded by two guys who look a lot like Royal Guard style. Something or others. Aggressive. I don't know if I can walk across that. I'm glad they removed the ragdolling of enemy corp. That wall looks different. Let me just clear the way. Yeah. And thank you for the information, Ghost, that ran through the... Oh, hi. And spell quartz ring. Not so useful for me, but... Okay. There's definitely gonna be some mannequin... Yeah, there's one right there. There's a ninja, actually. That's not a mannequin, that's a ninja. Haven't seen one of those in a while. Oh, that's not good. That's definitely bad. Hot take, this is bad. Off. Oh my god! The poison got me. Or the bleed did, actually. Still a little annoyed that this door is still closed off to me, but oh well. Alright, so. This time we do it better. Come on, poison yourself. Yeah. Well, that kind of seems like the place I'm supposed to go, but what if I went this way instead? And... What, I can't push them down? Make them land on their face? Illusory wall. Oh! Thank you very much, anonymous message. Ah! A bonfire again! That's a little bit much, isn't it? On the other hand, it was hidden, so... Is there one over here then, too? Yeah! Probably an enemy in here instead. Well, not necessarily. Petrified something. Cool, 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 cool. And then, oh, Lord. Really? I don't... Okay, I'm just supposed to get poisoned. There's really no getting out of it. And it's a mimic, too! Oh, great! Awesome. Wonderful. Just the best. Dark gauntlets and work hook. Is that one of those weapons that those... No. It's... Do what you want, cause a pirate is free. You are a pirate! I guess that's a fist weapon. Life ahead. Miracles. Well, I've got plenty of lockstones right now, so why not? Oh, hey, it heals me. Not that I need it very much, but it's nice. All right. Ah! Right, there's a bonfire. I forgot. Well, easily baited. By a masturbator. Guess that weapon is magic enchanted? Boss ahead, try lightning. Okay, we can do that. Oh! Oh, that's Medusa. Or that's a Gorgon, rather. But an interesting version. I should have had petrification resistance here instead. Oh, come on. Ow. Yeah, that was gonna happen. Well, lightning works. So this would be the queen who made the puppets, I see. Oh. Whoa! Okay. Let's just circle you a bit. Okay, she can do that to gain distance. That's fine. I figured. And then she wants her head back. I would too. Ah, she does do a ton of damage. Okay, I should have her. I should have her. There we go. That is literally a Gorgon. And it's a combination of both the Gorgon and the Gorgon myth. Which was it Perseus? Was it Perseus with his shiny shield who takes her head? Interesting. Soul of Mytha, the Baneful queen who lives in the Earthen Peak. The queen sought the king's affection. Oh, I see. Even poisoning herself to attain beauty, despite the monstrous consequences. All for the compelling madness known as love. Right, so we have here a woman scorned, basically. Someone who wanted to be loved, but whose love was unwilling to love her back. Oh, that's an interesting elevator. That's an interesting elevator right there. That's interesting. Because that doesn't make any goddamn sense, does it? And there's a bonfire, thank God. Oh, I'm gonna have to think about that for a bit. But yeah, that... Oh, no, wait, there's one more thing we need to do. There's one more thing we need to do. He doesn't have... Oh, there it is. Mytha's bent blade, dagger forged from the soul of Mytha, coated with potent poison. Mytha was the fairest queen in the land until something unhinged her. Was it the poison found deep within the earth, or the passion that consumed her heart? Indeed. Yeah. Well, that was Mytha, the Baleful Queen. A bit of a straight-up mythological throwback character there, with a little bit of a interesting mix story where it's both the whole thing of being a Gorgon, but also an obsession with beauty. And I think there's quite a lot there for Future Skyne to dig into, so I'm gonna let him get on with it. Over to you, Future Skyne. Well, thank you very much, Paskyne, and yes, you're right, there is quite a lot to talk about here. For example, let's start by clearing up some confusion that you may have caused by running around talking about Gorgons in relation to Queen Mytha. See, because I do believe that Queen Mytha has some explicit references to Medusa, and Medusa is technically a Gorgon, but the character design of Queen Mytha is not a Gorgon. So, a Gorgon is a popular mythological creature in ancient Greek mythology. Their faces were believed to be powerful protective amulets and were used to ward away evil spirits or disease or enemies. And the three most famous Gorgons, Stheno, Eurale, and Medusa, did have snakes for hair, but in ancient Greek mythology, Gorgons are never depicted as having snake bodies. The snake body might come from Lamia, who was a child-eating monster in Greek mythology, who was sometimes depicted as a snake-like woman or perhaps having the ability to turn into a snake, or it comes from a conflation with a mythological creature from Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism, the Naga. The Naga are said to be divine or semi-divine creatures, taking the shape as different kinds of human-serpent hybrids, sometimes with multiple heads, sometimes with various proportionalities of human to snake body features. Some are shown with human torsos, some are shown with only human heads, but generally they're considered to be able to shift fluidly between the two different forms. So Queen Mytha's character design, as it's shown in the game, is not a Gorgon. She is explicitly some kind of a Naga or perhaps a Lamia. However, it's also true that the Medusa and the Gorgon and the Lamia and the Naga have all kind of merged together a little bit in pop culture. If you search for depictions of Lamia or Medusa or the Gorgons, you will often find them depicted in this half-human, half-snake form, which probably owes a lot to Lamia and the Gorgons' pre-existing associations with snakes. So while technically Queen Mytha wouldn't be a reference to the Medusa myth because, well, she's not a Gorgon, she's a Naga, given the context of modern pop culture, I think we can still comfortably call Queen Mytha a reference to the Medusa myth, even if she doesn't, technically match all of it. And I think so, specifically because of that severed head, which, despite having been torn from her body, still functions as a powerful, magical weapon, much like how Perseus used the severed head of Medusa to destroy his enemies. Now, depending on which sources you read, the Medusa myth can take a few different forms, but according to Ovid, Medusa was a beautiful woman with beautiful golden hair who attracted the fancy of the sea god Poseidon, who raped her in the temple of Athena. And Athena, seeing such a profanity happening in her temple, decided to punish Medusa. She curses Medusa, turning her into a horrifying Gorgon, twisting her visage into something so ugly and horrifying to look at that anyone who looks directly upon her will be petrified and turned to stone. She's given hair like snakes and driven out and exiled. Now, a reasonable person coming from a modern perspective might go, hang on. Poseidon was the dude doing the sexual assault here, so what's with the punishing of Medusa instead of Poseidon, the man who was doing the thing? And the answer to that is, number one, the Greek gods were all assholes, and number two, it is unfortunately not that uncommon in a lot of cultures across history to blame women for the sexual abuses that are heaped upon them by men. However, it's also important to remember that we don't know most of ancient Greek mythology because a vanishingly small amount of really reliable sources have actually survived up until the present day. Ovid, from whom we have our most famous account of the Medusa myth, was a Roman poet, and he lived from around 43 BC to 17 or 18 AD. But the Gorgons, as a mythological creature, can be traced back for thousands of years, at the very least to 1100 years BC, which is over 1,000 years before Ovid was even born. So with Greek mythology, and indeed with all modern interpretations of ancient mythology, it's important to have a certain critical distance when it comes to trying to understand the story that are related to us today, because we are usually missing enormous amounts of important context for understanding what these stories meant to their contemporaries. And I bring this up because the Gorgon in ancient Greek culture, at least as far as we can tell, was a powerful symbol of protection. And from that perspective, Athena turning Medusa into a Gorgon, rather than an act of punishment, could be seen as, a protection. She was raped in Athena's temple, therefore Athena turns her into something that no man can ever touch again, something that will turn them to stone if they so much as think of looking at her. And you will see modern and revisionist interpretations of history like that going around a lot more these days, as newer generations of especially feminist scholars try to reinterpret the work of older, let's be real, mostly white, mostly Western, mostly male historians, who have tended to interpret a lot of history through a specifically Western, specifically white, and specifically Christian lens. Anyway, that was a little bit of a side digression again. My point in bringing all of this up is that when it comes to bringing the ideas and meanings of classical mythology into character design and interpreting a character design through the lens of classical mythology, you should keep a critical distance, and you also should be aware that you don't need to interpret classical works only through classical interpretations. Anyway, in the other part of the Medusa myth, after the whole, being raped by Poseidon thing, Perseus shows up. He's there because some sketchy dude wants to marry his mom, and the sketchy dude says, hey, if you can get me the head of Medusa, I won't bone your mom. So Perseus is like, okay, I guess I'll just go murder someone then. So he shows up, finds Medusa sleeping, is careful only to look at her in a mirrored shield, and cuts off her head. The other Gorgons are understandably pissed off by this, but Perseus has a magic helm from the gods that means they can't find him, so he gets away with it, goes home, and then a bunch more Greek mythology happens. That's not really important to the story. The important part is specifically that Perseus cuts off Medusa's head, because that is the state in which we find Queen Mytha, beheaded by a man. So Queen Mytha and the covetous demon, who we covered last time, are kind of the same story twice, or perhaps two parts of a whole. And I strongly considered doing both of them as one episode before the covetous demon ended up going in a somewhat different direction. But they are both people who undergo a monstrous transformation due to unreciprocated love. The covetous demon turns his pain outwards, becoming a consuming mouth that eats everything around him, perhaps attempting to fill the hole in his heart where the object of his obsession was supposed to go. Mytha, on the other hand, turns her pain inwards, reacting against herself, deciding that if only I was more beautiful, if only I was prettier, if only I was better, then perhaps he would see me. And in this way, the two of them represent rather stereotypical male and female versions of spurned love. The man acting out and getting aggressive, and the woman getting self-conscious and obsessed with her looks. Which, you know, hewing close to stereotype can often get a little bit tedious, but with Mytha specifically, there's some interesting commentary going on. Because what Mytha does in order to make herself younger and more beautiful is cover herself and infuse her body with poison. And if that isn't some on-the-nose commentary on the toxic nature of beauty standards, I don't know what is. This is cerussite. It's an ore, a mineral, that can be crushed up and used in cosmetics to create skin-whitening cream. In the 16th century, when being pale and fair-skinned was a status symbol, it was extremely popular in a compound known as Venetian ceruse, which was a skin whitener that you applied to the skin and wore pretty much the entire day in order to show off your youth and vitality and cover up the less-than-perfect condition, perhaps, of your skin. Cerussite, though, also goes under another name, white lead, which, you know, is not great because lead is super poisonous. Lead was used in makeup for centuries, but it's hardly the most poisonous thing that people used to put on or in their bodies in the name of beauty. In the 1880s, for example, women in America could buy Dr. Mackenzie's improved, harmless, arsenic complexion wafers. Little wafers that you'd pop in your mouth and chew on, and they would supposedly clear up your skin. Other lovely ingredients that have been used for cosmetic purposes include deadly nightshade, mercury, getting irradiated with X-rays, and getting irradiated with radium, which was put in skin creams, tonics that you would drink, and special face masks that you would put on overnight in order to tighten up your skin and get rid of those wrinkles. And all of that is to say nothing of the endless tide of snake oil that we are all of us bombarded with from every corner of a beauty industry that is desperately trying to sell to us the right to be attractive. Queen Mytha fell in love with a man who didn't love her back. In despair and desperation, she does the only thing she can think to do. She consumes whatever substances, whatever poisons might make her young and beautiful again. In her desperation and madness, she seems to have created an entire mining camp where slave labor is used to dredge poison out of the earth, and as far as I can make out, the purpose of the windmill is to pump it up into her chamber, where if I had not unwittingly burned the windmill, the entire chamber would have been filled to the brim with poison. She creates an army of headless mannequins and slaves to wait upon her and serve her, but she makes them either cover their faces or tears off their heads completely, lest they commit the sin of looking at her and seeing anything less than the perfect, ageless beauty that she thinks she has to be. Mytha works well as a commentary on the toxic nature of the beauty industry. In her desperate pursuit of ageless perfection, she has quite literally lost her head. And that also ties in quite naturally with the personal identity angle I've been pursuing throughout Dark Souls 2. Like the covetous demon, Mytha lost herself to obsession with another and changed everything about who she is, who she might be, in order to please someone else who will never, ever love her, who will never, ever validate her efforts, who will never, ever see her for who she is. Hey, thank you very much for watching another episode of the Boss Designs of Dark Souls 2. These past two episodes have been pretty short. The Earthen Peak is not, as it turns out, a very long level or a very long dungeon. Now that we've finally moved on from places that are made of poison to places that are made of fire, though, I'm sure there will be plenty of amusing deaths to delay my progress and make the episodes a little bit longer. If you enjoyed this episode, though, please do remember to hit the like button, because that makes the numbers in the algorithm go up, and numbers going up is the only thing that YouTube really cares about. I rely a lot on those likes, and especially on sharing, because the YouTube algorithm doesn't push this series very much. First of all, because it's about a game that's 6 years old, and secondly, because it's about a game that's 6 years old, and also the unloved middle child sandwiched between two much more popular games. So yeah, those numbers going up, that matters kind of a lot for this particular series. You can also subscribe, if you are so inclined, and hit the bell icon to make the number of people who have hit the bell icon go up also, because yeah, YouTube tracks that as well, it turns out. If you want to support the channel and this series more directly, then Patreon is there for that. You can sign up for a monthly subscription if you want to, or you can give me a one-time tip with the tip jar link that I've got down in the description. If you'd rather buy something so you get something directly in return for your support, then I also have a merchandise store which is available if you want it. If you're not interested in supporting this channel and me directly, believe me, I both completely understand and respect that, but at the end of my videos, I do encourage everybody who is watching to consider supporting the content creators that they do like with literally anything they can whenever they can, because even those small $1 or $2 donations can be literally the same as thousands of views on a video, and that matters a whole heck of a lot, especially to smaller channels and smaller content creators on the internet. Especially for people who are making niche content or content that doesn't please the dominant algorithms, that direct support can easily make the difference between being able to do this as kind of a side gig and not being able to do it at all. So whether it's me or someone else, please support content creators that you enjoy directly with anything you can, whenever you can. Okay, so now I'm almost done with all the sales pitches that I have to make, but there's one last thing I have to plug. I also have a second channel where I do like unedited Let's Plays. You can find the unedited versions of each of these episodes of the boss designs of Dark Souls over there. So if you want to see everything I've been getting up to in Drain Lake, that stuff is available over there, along with playthroughs of games like Kingdom Hearts 3, Final Fantasy 7, and Nier Automata, which are currently running on the channel. Anyway, that was all of the things I'm supposed to pitch and self-promote, I think. So, if you haven't enjoyed this video, well, there is a dislike button down below, which has been cleared finally by the FDA for prolonged use on humans. Side effects of using the dislike button may include vomiting, nausea, mouth sores, hallucinations, dementia, psychosis, coma, death, and halitosis. Ask your doctor if the dislike button is right for you.